Welcome to the Dreamboat. Remember, you can join the DRI for just £30 a year. You get access to more content, including videos and discounts for our events. It's a great way of finding out more about our work, joining our dream community, and supporting this podcast. Details in the show notes and at driccpe.org.uk/membership. Welcome to the Dreamboat podcast, a place where we talk about everything dreamy, all you wanted to know about dreams and where you might find some answers. My name is Dave Billington, and I'm a psychotherapist, and I'm also director of the Dream Research Institute. And I'm joined by fellow psychotherapist Laura Payne.
Hello, I'm Laura Payne, and I'm also part of the Dream Research Institute. And we're called the Dreamboat because we are recording our podcast overlooking the beautiful canal barges here at Little Venice in London.
We'll be looking at dreams, talking to guest experts, and answering your questions.
Now, let's get on with the episode. Welcome back to a new series of the Dreamboat podcast. We're really glad you've joined us again, and in this series we're going to be kicking off with a whole new group of co-hosts who herald from the dream community. And today I'm joined by Rina Malin. She's a senior psychotherapist, a teacher, and of course a dream facilitator. And I know that she's going to have some great tips for us, because today we're going to actually have a look at dream tips. So it will be about how to remember your dreams, what dreams might mean. And it's one of those things that we get asked probably more than anything else. So I'm here and I'm back with Rina Malin. So it's lovely to have Rina back in the co-host chair with me today. And we're going to be looking at great tips about dreaming, how to remember your dreams, what your dreams might mean. It's one of the things we always get asked the most. So it's lovely to have Rina in the seat here with me, who might have some new ideas. It's a great subject, isn't it, Rina?
It's a wonderful subject. Well, once you're into dreams and you find somebody else who's willing to talk about it and happy to talk about it, off you go. It's just, it's the realm of fairy tales, archetypes, the imaginal, everything's possible.
I know, it's beautiful, isn't it? I think it's because of the imagery. And I know that Dave and I have talked about before of people who don't see dreams, but often, as in see images in dreams, but they often feel dreams. They can often sense things. So they might not have the typical filmic, cinematic version, but it's more on a sensory level. And it's something we all love sharing. You know, whenever people sort of find out about the podcast, and friends often call me and say, I've just had this most amazing dream. And I must admit, I do love it because like you, I'm utterly, utterly fascinated. So, Rina, tell me a little bit more how you got involved in dreaming. What attracted you to this?
Well, I don't know that I really had a big background in dreams or dreaming. I've always dreamed. It's been interesting. But once I was CCPE and deep into my psychotherapy training, dreams and became a very big part, of course, of the training. And it fits so well with the archetypal language that we were learning and the elemental and alchemical language and concepts that we were learning, that it became a very natural progression. So it might not have been something that I would have thought of myself, but once fully immersed in it, it became the most natural thing to do. And so I continued in my training through the dream groups that CCPE and DRI run. And I've been in a dream group it continued from that dream group from the course for 10 years now. And
wow.
So we've met every month for 10 years, and we're all colleagues, teaching, working together, supervising together, peer supervising together. And it's created a cushion, a resource, a thread, a whole world that's going on in the background to my life that just enriches the foreground of my life, and traveling along with these same souls through my dreamscapes, their dreamscapes, has been what a precious, it's just incredible. It's just to have that in your life.
And do you find, because I know we've talked about dream groups before, but I mean, it is a lovely thing to be able to form one and stay in one. Do you find that you often share imagery, or you remember somebody else's imagery better than your own?
It's interesting because we're such distinctly different characters that so we're coming at our evolvement, our evolution, our evolutions from very different places. So our images won't be the same, the way-ins won't be the same, but we know each other's landscape so well that we have a shorthand for it. So when when someone presents a dream, it's amazing, the recall. One of us will say, doesn't that sound like the dream or the themes, the cycle that you went through 6 years ago? Was it 6 years ago? It was when you got married and we did this. And, it's like it's all there. So it's just, I think as we get into talking about dream tips, what this is showing is that if you create the environment, if you put yourself in the environment where these communications are of interest and are of interest of other witnesses, and you share that, it just gets deeper and deeper. Yeah.
I think you've almost hit one of the top 10 tips about dreaming. And for most people, it's probably something that they would cringe at doing or never even think of doing is, number one, share your dreams, because it makes them so much real. And the psyche, I know everyone knows that, I say, the psyche is knocking at the door when you're dreaming, but it is. And if you open the door and you share it, it's like inviting the psyche into a party. But you stand more chance of the dream deepening the next time round.
Absolutely. But there's an interesting social hurdle to go through that. And that's the concept of, the cynical joke is like, nothing more boring than somebody, telling me their dream. It's just, this is common parlance. So it's about satsang. It's about noticing your tribe, finding the person who would actually be interested in sharing your dream. It's finding your satsang, creating a community of like-minded travelers that support each other's journey. So I agree with you. It's wonderful to share dream, but I'd just like to acknowledge that it's choose the company you keep.
But really good point.
Cultivate. That's cultivate the company you keep, not choose.
Yeah. I know, partners tend to get, tend to carry the burden on that if you live with someone, but just a close friend, even if you don't want to join a dream group. Yes. And I must obviously here push the fact that the DRI do offer dream groups. That's what Rina is referring to. And they are a rich way of developing a better life with your dreams, a clearer life with your dreams. And obviously we've also got the whole notion of dream journaling. Do you dream journal, Rina? Do you write your dreams down?
I do, and I really do. I like the physical act of writing them, and you never understand what I wrote in the morning. And you're always sure. I mean, it's all the common jokes, I was always sure I really, got all those words down. But yes, I do. And I always keep a journal by my bed and a pen at the ready. And
What do you do to remember your dreams out of interest? Do you have any special techniques?
Well, it begins with setting the intention. I know some nights more than others, when I go to bed, I'll make sure the journal is there. I'll, say, I might even say out loud to myself, tonight is a dream night, or something of the sort. And then, and this is always the struggle, never listening to the voice that said, I know this so well, of course you're going to remember this. Just don't, you have to say, shut up. I'm doing it anyway. Grab the pen, because you're so deep in it. Just the movement of the arm to go get the pen is painful. You have to pull yourself up from, you think of the bottom of the well. It's so many stories. You have to pull yourself up to go do that. And really the deliciousness is you want to stay in that place. So that's what I find. Within the dream, I am repeating over and over again the theme and the particular images so that I don't have to get up to write them down and remember. Yeah. And then invariably that doesn't work. I have to write it down. So, because when I wake up in the morning, it'll be gone if I haven't written it down. So the next thing in the morning when I wake up is I check the mood that I'm waking up in. That first sensation, that first, the atmosphere that you wake up in, and I'll jot that down and then try to read what I wrote and then add anything that clarifies it.
That is such a lovely tip. I love that. Checking the atmosphere. Why is that important, would you say?
I think it's that last connector to the dream world, to that dreamscape, it's almost like the tail on the comet, is the feeling that you wake up with. So it's I'll stay with that. It's like the tail of the comet that connects you back to the dreamscape.
Yeah, it's interesting because I know when we teach this stuff, we often kick off and say, and what was the feeling you were left with? And I mean, we've got into the habit of doing that because it's so easy to attach to the story, the narrative, and think that is the important bit.
Exactly.
But often we've all woken up in some way and felt disturbed for the day because something that we dreamt has stuck with us. And it's often if we could just isolate what that feeling is, the dream will suddenly make sense.
Oh, I like the way you just put that. That's so true. If you can isolate, if you can focus in on, if you can just connect to that, the sensation in the body of disturbance. And that's the shortcut in. That's what I mean by the tail on the comet. That's the way in, and then you're in to that part of yourself that's the dreamer. That was in the dream. Yeah. Yeah,
it's I don't know, because the narrative and the imagery and the sort of associative symbolism and all of that is obviously important, and we'll talk about that in a bit. But there is something about the dynamic, because I often think, particularly if it sticks with you, that's the bit that's being asked to be transformed. That's the material, whatever it is, the dark materials. But that's the work if we can get to it. So to wake up with a sensation like that, I think is bonus.
Mm. Yes, very, very much. And once you start getting into the associations and the cognitation, if that's the word, cognitizing the dream and trying to select symbols, trying to select metaphors to convey that meaning to you, something already is starting to get selective. So if you start with the feeling, and you can always refer back to that feeling, check back in, how did that narrative land on that feeling I woke up with in my body? Is it, that's when you... Because I agree, that's what's being offered for transformation. That's the clue, is the feeling, and then the mind is trying to make sense of it. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it's interesting because now we're sort of homing in on this sort of energy, whatever it is that we're left with. Very often, if you can't remember the dream, but you just hang on to the energy. And I mean, a tip I would give is, where is it in your body? Which bit of your body is holding this energy? Mm-hmm. If you can locate that, and even if you just put a hand on it and ask what it is, you will get a very interesting piece of feedback. Mm-hmm. And then the rest of the imagery often pours out after that,
yes,
which I find fascinating.
Exactly. It is quite magical. I've seen it enough times to really just know, because it sounds bonkers, right? Because the instruction is, all right, you woke up with that feeling. It's like, rumbling. It was like really hot in my solar plexus. And I'm like, okay, great. I know I'm in the ego. I'm in direct will. That makes sense with this person that's sitting in front of me. Put your hand there. Just Can you just breathe into it? And then I get really patient because, a little anxiety might pop up and then I better come up with something fast, right? Because this person, she's waiting for me. So I really try to convey, a sense of, we've got all the time in the world. Take your time. Because if you sit with it long enough, if you breathe into your hand and you connect with that feeling, as you say, it will come.
Yeah.
It will come.
And it will always surprise you because what you think you're connecting with 9 times out of 10 is very different to what actually comes back. It's like, oh, yeah. And it's like those moments when, you wake up in the morning and you've had a significant dream and you can feel it in your body, but you still can't remember the narrative. And you sort of head off. Sometimes in those days, I don't always write something down, which is really stupid because just the act of writing something down can be the unlocker of it all. But you go through the day and then something happens. Somebody says something or does something, or you get that feeling back and suddenly the dream does come back. And it's like, oh, yeah, that was the dream.
And then I hope I have a pen to hand or something to hand so I can catch it again because otherwise it's gone.
Oh,
it's
sorry. I'm. That's when my mobile comes out and I'm writing it down on notes, or my cell comes out and I'm on notes.
Fair enough. Once we're out and about, we no longer carry pens and pads with us. Yes.
And what do you feel about, in terms of tips, people writing stuff on their phone? Do you think a journal's a better idea?
I don't know if I rationalize it this way, but I just generally think the kinesthetics of writing taps a different part of our brain. The part of our brain that's on the phone is newer. It's not quite connected to the ancients. Something about the kinesthetics of writing. But that could be me being a Luddite and making an excuse for. But I do believe it. I love journals. I love the physicality of journals. I love the act of pushing a pen on a paper. I love the frustration if I happen to have a pencil instead, that the nib broke or it's a little bit lighter and I can't read it. It's all of that. It's so yes. I just think it's a different experience than going on your phone. Having said that, I do record things on my phone when I need to, and I can't report that it's any less deep what I get from it, but it's not pleasurable the way writing is.
Well, we are going to be doing an episode with Dr. Lorraine Levy on the subject of dream journals. So perhaps we'll leave it there. And if you want to know more on that, then listen to that particular episode. But so, Rina, any other great tips that are important for you in terms of dreaming that you found either work for you or work with when you're working with clients?
It starts with being keenly interested, at the same time being a little bit casual, so it doesn't feel so, you're going.
I've got a dream tonight.
Yeah, right.
Exactly. Ugh.
Yeah.
I remember when I was in a dream group and I felt under so much pressure to come up with an interesting dream just before we met each week.
Yeah.
It was hard work, and in the end I thought, this is crazy. I'm just not enjoying this, and so I let it go.
Well, now you got it. Exactly. It needs to be playful. That would be my tip in terms of, at least for my approach, my personality, the way I work with things is. It's playful because I find the land of the imaginal, Alama Metal, it's a treasure chest. It's like everything is there. So you get to play. And I've always felt that if you can externalize your inner world the way that you can look at it through imagery or through sensation, through objects, the dream draws the picture for you. That's the language that you connect and you communicate. So you play with it. So you put the client at ease, you put yourself at ease, you stay interested through the day in your own dreams. You put the client, if I'm working with a client, I put them at ease, I'm interested, and there's a lot of giggling going on. If I'm honest, it's like, You go into the absurd sometimes, enjoying drawing out the absurd, and then what does that mean and what could that look like? And it's just off you go.
Where are you on the subject of dream encyclopedias or, dream meaning guides? What do you feel about those?
I think whenever I ask that or talk about that, what always comes back is my first most shaming moment on the training, the first year in a weekend group, probably creative imagination. We were doing dreams, and I asked that question, and the look that I got from the facilitator, it's like, best not to look at those things. Like, okay. And I really took that to heart because, while it's useful, I don't know. I think I go, do you want a longer answer?
Yeah, go for it. Because people, I don't know about you, but I often get asked this as a question. And, Dave and I often talk about it, but
I can't help but see it as an action of looking for an answer elsewhere rather than within. So it will always be, because if it is archetypal and you want to get to like that forever meaning of what a snake represents, what it's always represented, if that's what the psyche wants to connect to, it will come in the associations. You don't need to preload it by going to look up in a book. I like keys, like certain key questions to ask that unlock the imagery, that unlock the meaning of the snake, but I don't like definitions of the snake, these encyclopedias. I just think that the answers that you come up with will always bring you to the place you need.
Yeah, I agree. I think in the end, this is about your own private language, which, as you discuss when you're working in a group, it then becomes the group's private language, because obviously there's a community sharing of something that's very intimate. But in the end, it's, the psyche knocks on the door and it's offering you these images, but it's what you associate, as you said, with them. This is something that obviously has come out of the early Freudian work with dreams. But I think one of my tips would be, first off, when you write your dream down, I would say to you, so you had a dream, there was a snake in it. What do you associate with snakes? And it's right now at this moment, because, 5 years ago, you might have associated something else.
Exactly.
Or 5 days from now, it might have a different meaning. But at this moment, in this dream, the psyche is offering you something out of your private language, and it's asking you to witness it and work with it in some way. So I would say to anybody, dream guides are very useful, but they're not, as you just said, Rina, they're not your private language. And so one of the first things I would always say to you is, what do I associate with that? Or another way of phrasing that question is, what does that mean for me?
Yes.
What does a snake mean for me at this moment, or whatever the image is that you're looking to get some clarity on?
Mm-hmm. And how do you feel in the company of the snake? And if the snake had a message for you, what would it be? All of that. And then again, I couldn't agree more. I love that language of, it's your private language. The dream comes in the language and the imagery that you will understand.
Yeah.
It's for you. Yeah.
And I think that's the same with all imagery, whether if you're an artist or however you work with the creative imagination in your life, and we're all doing it in the world of dreaming. That's us as creators, one way or another. It's very personal, isn't it? And it's intimate. So going back to what you were saying, Rina, about finding someone to share your dream with, remember, this is really intimate stuff. Choose the person you share with care.
And I think it also builds that confidence in you. So when you're working with a client and you're showing interest in what their associations are, rather than some book that will tell them what they should be feeling, I think that builds confidence in your own connection to your own intuition. So
Yeah,
but
exactly.
One last tip that I wonder how you feel about is, do you think that your love of dream catchers helps to capture dreams?
I've got one up here somewhere. Hang on a second. Oh, it's out of shot. I love my dream catcher. I really do. I actually did. I can't remember. It was from one of the bands in Canada. I can't remember if it's Cree or it's not Mohawk, but who I have a distinct attachment to. But I love my dream catcher. Do they work? I'm not sure. But
Well, I
it's
wonder. It's like an intention, right? If you love your dream catcher and you put it lovingly above your bed or by your bed, and you say, "Please, catch my dreams."
Catch my dreams. It's like a talisman, isn't it? In the end, it's got a form of intent around it, which feels very important and spiritually important as well. I think that's what's getting caught in it.
Yes. And we're making it whimsical with the, laughing about the dream catcher, but it really, that is true. It's intentionality. It's, what is that term? Cultivate your field with the intention of sowing a rich, the preparation of the soil, like do it lovingly.
That's an old alchemical phrase, isn't it? As part of the alchemical work, which was obviously loved by Jung, was, as you say, there's a fabulous illustration, one of those beautiful illustrations of, I think it's 16th century or 17th century, of the man in the fields. It's like a copper plate. It's
Myers emblems.
Yes,
it's Myers emblems, and I think it's the man with the hoe, right? With the
that
field.
one as well. Yes,
yes.
There's also one with the guy who's carrying the bowl with the seed in, and he's literally just throwing it out onto the prepared ground, which is such a beautiful image in its own right. After you've heard this, if you get that come up in a dream, just let us know. We'd be very interested. Yes. Yeah, we would be interested, wouldn't we? Because it's a very dynamic image. Out of interest, back to dream catchers, Rina. Have you got one?
I do. Ooh. And I started getting them when the children were young. I used to like getting. I would get one for each. I got one for each of them, and it became part of their early bedtime routines. So that's where I have them from.
And I mean, just as a sort of litmus test, did it improve their dream life, do you think?
I don't know. I think that it made for magical bedtimes. It's like, because bedtime was difficult, right?
Exactly.
So it made it a little bit funner, or more imaginative, easier to make do this little dialogue about your stream catcher, I don't know. It was nice. It was nice.
Yeah.
Yes. It's interesting. I didn't think, I'll ask them the next time I see them. They're now all 30, late 20s and early 30s. I'll ask them, do you dream now? Because of that?
Yeah, exactly. Oh. So, I mean, I think our tips so far have been, think about sharing your dreams. Think about writing them down and having a journal. Don't get hooked up on looking through encyclopedias, but what are your own associations? And concentrate on the feeling when you first wake, if you can. I think one of my final tips would be, and this came after COVID or during COVID, was I know most of us have to set an alarm clock to get up and wake up. But if you can just stay in that sort of liminal space between dreaming and waking.
Yes.
It's such fertile ground, back to the whole alchemical notion, but it is such fertile ground. And you can often staying in the dream and just seeing what happens when the real world starts. Well, you could argue that the dream world is the real world, but when this world starts,
material world,
material. Thank you, Rina. Starts filtering in. Just see what the dream sort of coagulates into, because sometimes that's a really interesting exercise. Rather than the alarm goes and you jump up and you're instantly attached to the material world, it's really hard to remember your dreams then, I find.
No, and the only feeling that you're waking up with is, is panic. So it's just...
What time is it?
Yeah.
Exactly. So if you can, and for a lot of people, that's when they're on holiday. That's when you're on holiday. That's when you're sort of weekends or whatever. But if that is the case, just try and enjoy the times when you haven't got the alarm on and you can just sort of float around in that sort of space between dreaming and waking and enjoy it and just see what surfaces. I think for me, that's a really important tip and area to play with.
I think that's a wonderful one. That's just, that's really good.
I've got a little dream that somebody has sent in to us, so which I thought we'd have a quick sort of play with. I'll be intrigued to hear what you feel about it. It's from someone whose daughter is getting married. She had these dreams while she had gone out to her daughter's wedding. It was not in this country. It was in South Africa. And the very first part of this dream, there was a swan that was going round and was killing someone. And she says that this was very graphic. Then the second part of the dream...
I'm sorry, Laura, killing someone or so it's a particular person?
It was killing. She doesn't say who it was. She knew it was significant that she watched basically one night a swan killing someone. She doesn't say any more than that. And it's a very good point, actually, Rina, because if I was working with this person, I would try and identify who that person was.
Or just the fact that it's one person rather than a group. It's someone.
True.
Yeah. Okay, sorry.
And then, no, that's a good point.
See, I get excited.
I know. I'm loving it. And then she entered a yew tree, and it was the fact that it was dark. She was trying to find her way out, which I find very interesting. And then the next part of the dream is an orange tree. And the orange tree is full of oranges, but none of them have their peel on. What do you make of that?
Just as a background question, when this woman is traveling to her daughter's wedding, is that her home country, South Africa?
No.
So she has no connection to South Africa?
No.
Okay.
No, her daughter is marrying someone who's South African, apparently. Mm-hmm. For me, you dream of a swan killing someone, you can't help but think of the old classical myth of Leda and the swan. And Leda, the swan rapes Leda. It's the swan is basically attacking and overpowering the I think she's Greek, isn't she? She's the Greek woman Leda, and I think it might be Zeus as the swan. I think it's Zeus is a form. I haven't looked it up. And again, quite it's a sexually overpowering dream. Obviously, it's a very carnal. I want to use the word carnal dream. I don't know. What do you make of that bit?
I would agree with that. Yeah, that was helpful, you saying that, actually, because the swan is always for me, is surprising. It looks so elegant, and it sort of draws you in with its beauty, but its force, its sheer force is really quite shocking. Once it decides, it can kill you. It can, and so there's something shocking. The twist of difference between the beauty, and that can feel quite erotic, actually, because the wing comes down and envelops you. It's like you get flapped, and I'm really drawn to the orange tree thing of the naked fruits, that's exposed. Yeah. So when you said this feels quite erotic, it's like, okay, yes, and we're entering a yew tree. We're entering a tree. It's dark. It's we're entering a different
It's almost got a vaginal feel about that as well.
Exactly.
And I was intrigued because the swan, I think one of the reasons why the sort of Greek, as a form, but it's Freudians would say that neck is very sort of it's very penile, and it's a strong projective shape as well. The neck, it's very, very powerful. And you're right, swans there are regular stories of swans with their wings breaking somebody's arm or leg. I had a swan that nearly drowned a puppy once, one of my dog, and it was scary trying to beat the swan off the dog because it was literally pulling it out into the river and trying to drown it with its wings, which is obviously something they do when, to predators or whatever, or something they don't like. So there's something very, I'm going to be very sort of, it's quite masculine. There's a masculine energy, it feels like, if I was going to take a Jungian line on it, around the swan. But then this entering the yew tree, I have this, I've got a tree near me that's got a massive hole in it that you can walk into.
And it does, yes, and it's this shape, isn't it?
Yeah,
it looks,
exactly.
Yeah,
it's very vaginal looking, isn't it? It's got, which I find interesting. And then we've got this beautiful... This is not just any fruit. This is incredibly ripe fruit, ready to eat. It has a very, again, sensual part, whereas the swan doesn't feel sensual at all. It just feels abusive. This has got something very sensual at the end of it. I think wrapped round a wedding, I find it a fascinating dream, actually.
Oh, I forgot that part. Yes, she was there for a wedding.
Yeah.
And it's her daughter that's being, being offered up or taking her...
Offered up, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it'd be interesting if it was a client, what the relationship between the mother and the daughter, because I think it was her youngest daughter, and there's something, I want to say sacrificial around this, but something... I like the ending of the orange tree because it feels like something's come to full blossom and is ripe and ready. It'd be interesting after this wedding to learn from this whether the daughter did get pregnant, because it's got that type of, I don't know.
Interesting. I don't know. There's something quite vulnerable. I mean, the peel is there to protect the fruit. Or you can also say the peel is there to make you work for the fruit. So there's just something so fecund, and it's just it's just like on offer. You can just buy, and I can feel the juice coming down and squirting all over my mouth, and it's full of oranges. It's abundant. So there's something quite generative in this pairing. And it's making me revisit the graphic notion of the killing. It's very specific that someone is being killed, and it's got very graphic. It's like, again, we're in this sensuous, like it's very rich. It's very visceral.
Yeah, visceral. Good word. Yeah.
We're not in a watercolor here.
No, you're right. The swan is very visceral, and yet the oranges are very sensual. And so there's a dynamic setup of immense difference between those two energetically, which
and they're
is
connected
intriguing.
Through the passage, the vaginal passage, the dark passage of the yew tree, trying to find her way out. And in fact, this can be the passage of her daughter, of moving from it. We don't do maiden to mother, but in a way you are moving. Her daughter is moving from being a daughter to being the woman, and of her own household, and so she's finding her way out and through. It's nice. It's a nice connector between these two
images. You as door, again as threshold. It's got a liminal thing about it. Darkness, trying to find your way through to the light. And then suddenly the light comes in this beautiful orange. this beautiful orange tree.
Does this woman say how she felt about the dream when she woke or wrote it?
Yeah, she found it was disturbing. And she felt she doesn't normally dream. So she recognized with the sensations that she had that it was hugely significant for her.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for sending that. A wonderful dream in. Really, really loved it. And obviously, many thanks to Rina for joining us. And she's going to be co-hosting with me now during this series. So lovely, Rina, to have you on board.
It's wonderful to be on board.
And to know that you have dream catchers. Ha, 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 Dave. Oh, dear. So many thanks again. And so from me, sweet dreams. And Rina, are you going to have a sign-off catchphrase like Dave did?
I hadn't thought of one.
Oh, we'll have to get you.
I'll have to. Rather than on the spot, I shall cultivate that one. I shall sit on that.
We'll all await with interest.
Oh, no pressure.
Anyway, everybody, thanks for sending your dreams in. Keep doing, and sweet dreams, and look forward to being with you again soon.
Go well, everybody. Go well.
So, thank you for joining us for this week's episode. Don't forget to like us and leave comments on your favourite podcast platform. As I'm sure you know, that's the way we build an audience for the Dreamboat podcast and also to spread news about dreaming. And as we said, there are many ways you can share your dreams at the DRI, the Dream Research Institute.
Yes, we have courses, events, and workshops, and we want to hear from you. So check out the show notes for links, or find us on Instagram and on our Facebook page and on our website at driccpe.org.uk. And if you want to explore your dreams further, or you would like to support us, you can join the DRI as a member for just £30 a year. As a member, you will get discounts for all of our events and short courses. You'll get our newsletter with latest dream research news, and we'll also be adding other special member benefits during the year. Of course, members' dreams will always be given preference for reading on the podcast Dream of the Week slot. So go to the link on the show notes and become a DRI member today. Keep dreaming and keep sharing your dreams.